I also want to talk about the different layers of abstraction uh, that I have in my project. So I had to learn about these three layers of abstractions where each layer is like a wrapper of the things that are inside it. And so we start with the SageMaker build your own algorithm API. And so I show you the high level API where uh, with the off the shelf model. And this is the API, low level API where you can plug in your Docker container. Um, and then you can write wrapper scripts to make it compatible with the deployment pipeline and endpoints of SageMaker so that your model behaves just like an off-the-shelf SageMaker model. So for that, I would recommend this notebook, um, Amazon SageMaker Examples, where it walks you through basically the documentation of how the SageMaker runs your Docker images. Um, and it also talks about when to use your own algorithm, but mostly, so it tells you that SageMaker is expecting that during running the training image, this will be the directory structure that your image, your container would be ran in. And so this directory has folder for input and input configuration and input data, and it also has a directory for model where you will so your training image would consume all the resources that are in the input folder, and then create the model artifact that it will drop into this directory /op /ml /model, and then your serving image would go to this directory and grab this model artifact and then uh, use it for serving. And it also talks about how you build the serving and hosting layer and what should be in it. So it's basically should be like a serve script that do the prediction. So this notebook helped me understand how SageMaker is expecting the images, and but then all of these things that you have to do manually, you have to upload the container, build the container and upload it on Elastic Container Registry, which is like a file system for your containers, and then you have to configure these repositories, um, and then yeah, doing all these manual work, doing and create jobs, training jobs, serving jobs. Um, so SageMaker build project, which is over here, um, it it is a CloudFormation stack. So what CloudFormation is that it's like infrastructure as code. So uh, it specifies the resources that you want to spin up in kind of like a JSON or YAML format. And so in order to see this, you go to this website where they explain the AWS SageMaker build project, all the technologies that are included in it, and why, and the role that they play and why they chose it instead of different things. So, for example, here I really like their explanation about why they chose step functions instead of like code pipeline or AWS Glue. And so, for different use cases, um, different technologies and services can be used, and it's just based on like how you want to optimize performance and cost. So yeah, it has the architecture of how the different technologies fit together. But here is the CloudFormation stack. And so for this CloudFormation stack, if you click on it, um, it will lead you to a page where you can quickly create stack. And so it's telling you that this is the template URL. And so when I go to this URL, this is what the template looks like. So it's a bunch of configurations. So these are the parameters that you would put into uh, the uh, the CloudFormation stack, and then do different things based on different parameters, and it also have, yeah, so there's a lot of configuration. um, Let me see. Yeah, so it has multiple configurations. So uh, one of them is BYOD, which I used, and um, there are other ones too. But basically, this these configurations create are reflected in this page where you can uh, look at them and choose them in a more um, user-friendly way. So this is the configuration step that I was telling you about. Um, yeah, so by specifying these resources in code, you can version control it and you can reuse it. You can send it to other people so they can reproduce it easily. So it's really nice. And so using this template, it spins up all the resources you need to build this continuous automated deployment model deployment pipeline, um, and then connect them using Lambda functions, orchestrate these Lambda functions using the step function, which has these states, um, and yeah, it automates all the gluing for you. So let's look at some of the parameters. So this is whether you want to create a new bucket or not, um, so that you store all the different uh, files that will be created during the process. This one is the one where whether you want to create a new code repository on Amazon AWS code commit service, which acts kind of like a Git repo, um, but you can use your own Git repo too. And this is the SageMaker notebook instance, so you can interact with this build pipeline via um, the console, the AWS console, or if you are more of a notebook person, you're familiar with Jupyter Lab, you can also interact with it programmatically, like querying the build status, or um, start a new build using it, using the Python API SDK in the SageMaker notebook instance. These are different Lambda configs. Yeah, so this is what uh, this template specifies. Um, and so the last layer is the BYOD template. So the BYOD template is a wrapper around the SageMaker build project, where you have this sample code repository where you have everything that you need to create, develop, and your model and train it locally and test it locally. Um, and so they have all the steps. You just have to clone it and then change the config, uh, point the point the project to the bucket that you want to store your artifacts in, and the region, and the profile to use. And here they also talk about the mock file system, where you can use to test locally, and test both the training container and the serving container. And they have utility script for doing that. Um, and it also talk about how you can deploy. And so deploying is really easy because this takes advantage of the AWS SageMaker build project that I just showed you. So all the deployment is taken care of by just using these simple commands, and then tearing down the entire CloudFormation stack, destroying all the resources and cleaning them up after you're done, is also very easy. And so if you look into here, um, when you go to template, and so you see Sage build, um, and you look into here, you can see that this contains the template that we were looking at. And so the BYOD template is like another outer abstraction layer that abstracts out the things that the user has to do, kind of like a front end, kind of, that let the user interact with Sage Build without really having to worry about too much of these configurations, because they are a lot. Yeah, they put a lot of code into here, all the code for the Lambda functions. This stack creates 21 resources and about 40 Lambda functions. So it is a lot to understand. And so the BYOD template kind of ease the user into that. And after they and so just by using this template, you can start, hit the ground running, and create your own serving and training container while testing locally. So it's really nice.